Hello, good morning. It is I, your host, PoGokeRo, with yet another episode of Redstone Lapis Lazuli. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. It is I yet again. I made it. I'm still here. Uh, um. Yeah. Hey. Check it out. Check it out. Here I am in my Minecraft world, and what I've done is I've laid the beginnings of a villager trading hall. Yes, a villager trading hall. This is the beginning of it. The start. I've got some people set up already. I've already got something set up. But I'm working on it still. Still working on stuff. Yes, librarians and with their various enchantments to protect me and to better my chances for survival in this world. And then in the backside, I have the discount finder guy who is holding a block that I gave him, and he will happily negotiate with the villagers to find a lower price. So that's great. That helps me out a lot. And if I were ever to die and lose all my items, I can simply come back here and re-enchant my stuff. So I'm working on both sides, right? You're gonna have your armors to get the equipment and your tools, and then you're gonna have your arrows of weakness for later, and then weapons. Then you got your food here, your meat, and then you got your farmers going. And then I'm probably going to have more librarians here just for the few more enchantments. But yeah, it's a nice little trading hall. Like, it's a pretty neat design. I watched someone else build this on YouTube. I'm like, this is pretty simple. I can do this. It's not like that complicated. Yeah, and the villagers, I pretty much like I wouldn't say trick. I convinced them to go into their little workstations and stay there, where they're nice and safe. They won't be killed by marauding pillagers who appear from nowhere. Like, quite literally. Okay. Here, do you not believe me? Of course you believe me. Why would you not believe me? Can you even see them anymore? No. There used to be pillagers in the water that had crossed through my land, through my property, and they cause problems when they do that, right? Pillagers would just cross through my property, looking for problems to cause. So, a large part of my deal is to make sure I don't get attacked by random people wandering through to kill me. And traditionally, throughout history, that's been a problem. Like, well, at least that's been a problem. People not from around where you live will come onto your land and kill you and take your stuff. It's a problem throughout history. I put some carpet down just because it looked so bad in here. It looked like a cave. I was like, no, I can't handle it. It's too much of a cave. I see all these other bases. They look all pretty, and mine's all ugly. So I'm like, no, I must do something. Then I'm contemplating the move from here back over to here again. I made a little bit of an alteration to add a few more chests and for better organization, and that will give me an extra wall here. I want to use this wall to make a water elevator up, so I can continue to work on this thing up here. What is that? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just making it, man. And also, I thought instead of back there, wouldn't it make more sense to put it like over here? On back here on this wall to go straight up, And I'm thinking, yeah, that might be a better place. So this second section might be like redundant, but that's okay. I'll just take this out and figure out what else to do. All right. I'm still using the shader pack, rethinking voxels with Faithful 32, texture pack and PBR pack. That's why I have these amazing colored light and these shadows. You can't get these shadows on other shaders, and you can't get this colored light. I don't know how you do it. And I mean, look at it. It just feels different. The light's a bit funky. Yeah, the light's a little bit funny because I've got so many sources, but generally when it's not freaking out like this, when it's just chilling, it looks really soft and natural. It looks really, really nice. The light just feels much better. And all the textures are now connected. so the window panes aren't separate panes, they're like a solid whole. And bookshelves aren't separate blocks, they're one long bookshelf. Connected textures and the cobblestone all matches nicely, all meshes well. So yeah, it took a long time to get everything working. My next project is going to be to transform this bridge, and I want to make these two sections like disappear. Maybe along from here all the way back to here. Have it disappear so people fall. Anyone who's not, like, if I'm over here on this side and I flip the lever right there, these holes will open up and everyone standing on here will fall through. Ha ha ha. And I have trapdoors, so they won't know that there's a hole there, and they'll just like fall to their doom. Ah ha 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 ha. But that's for another time. What else have I noticed? Still making babies. I have nobody left yet. No one on the queue yet. So I got to make some babies and grow them into adults so they can join their brethren in the villager trading hall. Ha ha ha. Oh, this is an abandoned. So this is where I used to have the villagers live, in an apartment complex. And it was nice and spacious. They had access to their workstations. They had access to their beds. It was a nice place to live. But then, like I said, those pillagers appeared on my land, and they magically spawned inside the bedroom and then killed the pillagers, or killed my villagers. And I was really, really, really angry. So, and they did the same thing to my little breeding pod. They appeared inside there and just killed everyone, and it made me mad. So that's why I built the trading hall so far away, so that it wouldn't happen again. Da 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 da. And finally, no, I mean, not a whole lot. I really haven't played all that much Minecraft except making the villager trading hall, which is pretty cool, you know, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, and then I just continued to like plunge the depths. This cave complex is so big, I don't think I've reached the end of it yet. But it's just miles and miles of cave, well, kilometers. Meters and meters of caves. Every block is a meter. Hundreds of meters of dark cave filled with monsters. So it takes a while to clear it out. But yes, I really liked this shader pack. I really liked the way it uses the light to create an atmosphere. I mean, this just looks warm and cozy now. If you don't look at the flickering parts. No. Rethinking voxels. That's the thing you need. The shader pack. But to get that one, you need to have sodium and iris. So you need a bunch of, and then to get sodium and iris, you need fabric. So you get fabric, sodium, iris, iridium, not iridium, I don't know. So those that go to Modrith. Just go to Modrith and like download all the mods. That's how you do it. All the mods make this game playable. If it wasn't for the mods, I wouldn't be able to play Minecraft. Because it's like most of the work to this game, it feels like, has been by the community. Like the community made this texture pack. The community made the PBR pack. The community made all the optimizations. The community like made this farm or designed this farm. It's like the community. The community is where it's at. It's not the game, Minecraft, it's the community. And it reminds me a lot of organic farming. In organic farming, they always tell you, feed the soil, not the plant. Because in organic farming, you understand the soil culture is the vehicle by which the plants receive their nutrients. If the soil culture isn't there, then the plant has to transport all the nutrients itself, if it's even available, and it's really, really hard. And it slows the growth of a plant. However, if there's a good soil culture with lots of bacteria and like good bacteria and life inside the soil, then those bacteria will bind to the roots. And they help each other out. They form a symbiotic relationship, and they help each other out. So if you feed the soil, you will you increase the rate at which plants can uptake nutrients through their roots. You don't feed the plants directly, you feed the roots, who in turn then feed the plant. So if you add that logic to the Minecraft ecology, Minecraft is the plant. Minecraft, and if you just play the base plant, the base game with no mods or anything, it's pretty bland. It's not until you start adding all these mods written by the community for free, for love of the game, they create these mods, and it just adds so much more to the game. Just add so much more. And that's where the longevity comes from. Why is Minecraft still around? Why is it still a thing years later without a sequel? By now, like in any other normal gaming franchise, you'd have sequels. You'd have like your 5th or 6th sequel by now. And how many expansion packs? Like they're looking for money, right? But Minecraft, we're still in its first iteration. Basically, its first iteration. I mean, yeah, there's been significant upgrades and stuff, but basically it's first iteration. If you bought the base game 10 years ago, you still have it with all this additional content. But the vast majority of the improvements and the content come from the community. All the optimizations that allow me to run this game smoothly come from the community. Like, I've got 24 chunk view distance, and yeah, and it's not, and then I have like good garbage collection, so it doesn't like, because Minecraft puts like a bunch of garbage in memory, so you gotta have a good garbage collection system to clean it out. Otherwise, it'll like micro stutter your machine. No matter how powerful of a machine, it'll micro stutter. That was my problem in the beginning. When I was first playing Java, I had like 144 frames per second, but I kept getting micro stutters no matter what, and it was because the garbage collection system in vanilla Minecraft is crap. You need to tweak it to make it run good. all these things you need to do in order to get Minecraft to run good, and I discovered it through the community. So, and I really like Minecraft because look at the ideas I can express through Minecraft. Look at all the things I can express through Minecraft. Oh, I don't have my map up anymore. I have to put my map up. Ah, let me go over here. Because if you go out into the real world, you know, I don't have control over the real world. In fact, most of it's privatized. There's very, very, very little public space left anymore. And you can't just do whatever you want on private property. You have to abide by the property owner. So a lot of property owners, you know, have a different way of thinking. I used to go to this gym, and they would have Fox News playing on the TVs everywhere. It was awful. And then I found out on most U.S. military bases, Fox News is the default channel. So basically, our troops are being fed foreign propaganda. Well, what do you mean foreign propaganda, PoGokeRo? I mean fucking foreign propaganda. I mean Fox News is foreign propaganda. Do you know who is the owner of Fox News? The owner of Fox News is a Australian billionaire by the name of Rupert Murdoch. He already owns a lot of the media in England, in the UK. And if you remember, the UK just made a disastrous decision lately. Their ruling class pretty much did it. Their ruling class shoved it down the throat of the people. And their ruling class wanted to dismantle the welfare system in the UK and sell it off for parts. So that's what they did through Brexit. I fixed the font so it's even. That way it's all like, yeah, it's all even. Yeah, in the UK, the ruling class separated the UK from the rest of Europe, isolated it, and started to dismantle its healthcare system to sell it off to private corporations. And yeah, and it's horrible what's happening to them. But what would cause the English people to do that? Why would they like kill themselves? Why would they vote for a government that would kill them? Why would they do that? Because Rupert Murdoch owns most of the media in the UK. And what Rupert Murdoch wants to say, he will amplify throughout all his media. And he's a Nazi. Rupert Murdoch is a white supremacist. Rupert Murdoch is a fucking white supremacist. Absolutely. He's a threat to humanity. Rupert Murdoch. He spreads lies and fascism through his media corporations. So he's already done it to the UK. He's already done it. Now he bought a bunch of media in the United States to do the same thing. He bought the Wall Street Journal. He bought I think he bought the New York Times, but maybe not. He bought the Wall Street Journal, and he bought Fox News. So here's this Australian oligarch who's a fascist who already bought the media in UK to destroy UK, and now he bought the media in USA to do the same thing. But wait a minute. How do I know that Rupert Murdoch is a bad guy? How do I know it? Oh, look at that. Who is that? That's a picture of Rupert Murdoch hanging out with his best buddy. Who's his best buddy? It's Vladimir Putin. It's Vladdy Putin. Rupert Murdoch and Vladdy Putin are best buddies. How weird is that? How weird. It just so happens that Tucker Carlson, the person on Fox News owned by Rupert Murdoch, is like the best propagandist for Russia. Russia plays clips of Tucker Carlson on their TV shows on the Russian state TV to show how Americans support the Russian invasion and support Putin. Like, who owns Tucker Carlson? Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch and Putin are buddies. And we already know that through court hearings with Dominion, right? Because Dominion sued Fox News because Fox News repeated the lies of Donald Trump. What did Donald Trump say? Donald Trump said that Dominion voting machines flipped the votes for Trump to Biden. He put out this lie, and it was a lie. He had no facts, no proof, no basis, nothing. But he said this lie to further his election fraud lie. Well, guess what? Fox News repeated it. All their anchors repeated it. All their people repeated the Fox News lie, or the Trump lie, and they knew it was a lie. They have internal memos, internal things saying, "Oh yeah, this is full of shit. This is not true. There's no basis to this whatsoever." And yet, the Trump cheerleaders on Fox News repeated them nonetheless. Because this came out in a court hearing, that means Fox News is going to have to pay a lot of money to Dominion voting system because they willingly spread lies that defamed, that hurt Dominion voting. Because now companies are going to hear this reporting from Fox News and think, oh, Dominion voting machines are unreliable. But that's not true. That's full of shit. That's bullshit. Now you've wrecked this company's business because by spreading lies. That's why you're not. That's why you're in court right now. But yeah. It's not just a one-time person. You can't just look at Donald Trump and think, yeah, once we get rid of Donald Trump, it's over. No. Donald Trump is just a symptom. He's just a boil of the disease, just like Rupert Murdoch, just like Vladimir Putin. They're symptoms of a greater disease called fascism, which itself cannot enter into our world completely, right? It can't do it. It's an idea. So it's not able to fully enter into our world. It has to enter into our world through avatars and through portals, through humans giving themselves away to be portals to fascism. That's the only way fascism comes into the world. It's through humans. Anyways, so now we know. Go in here to be safe. So now we know that Rupert Murdoch has teamed up with Vladimir Putin to help overthrow the United States of America, to overthrow democracy. But you know what? I want to let you guys know, this isn't the first time. This has been a battle white supremacists have been trying to overthrow American democracy for a really long time. And it's been multiple attempts. It's not just a one-time thing. It's a non-stop attempt. Let me show you what I mean. So we found out yesterday that more than 4 decades later, a secret revealed how a prominent Texas politician says he unwittingly joined a mission to sabotage Jimmy Carter's 1980 campaign by urging the Iranians to hold 52 American hostages until after the election. That's right. That's right. What happened next? Mr. Barnes has largely kept secret for nearly 43 years. Mr. Connolly, he said, took him to one Middle Eastern capital after another that summer, meeting with a host of regional leaders to deliver a blunt message to be passed to Iran. Don't release the hostages before the election. Mr. Reagan will win and give you a better deal. Then, shortly after returning home, Mr. Barnes said Mr. Connolly reported to William J. Casey, the chairman of Mr. Reagan's campaign and later director of the CIA, briefing him about the trip in an airport lounge. In other words, do you know what happened? In 1979 or 78, during Jimmy Carter's presidency, the Iranians staged a revolution. It used to be, okay, so back in the 50s, Iran was a democracy, and it was just chilling. And England, or the UK and America made a deal with Saudi to get the Saudi oil. And then they went to the Iranians to make the same deal with the Iranians. But the Iranians didn't like the deal. And so they refused the deal with England and America. So the CIA, the American CIA, overthrew the government of Iran and installed a puppet dictator that would be friendly to the West, named the Shah of Iran. He was a puppet dictator, and he was a bad guy. He was brutal to his people. And the Iranian people lived under his repression for a lot of years, until there was a counter revolution. But this time the revolution was not held by the forces of democracy to reimpose democracy. Instead, it was held by religious fundamentalists who overthrew the Shah of Iran and imposed a theocracy, which is in place today. And this theocracy was very anti-West, very, very anti-West. And it was very, very harsh to its people because it imposed theocracy on its people again. Rule by religious leaders, as opposed to rule by a corrupt person puppet. So, anyways, in the course of doing this, the Iranians stormed the American embassy in Iran and took 52 people hostages. So Jimmy Carter is sitting there trying to negotiate to get the hostages released. At the same time, he's running for re-election against this actor named Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan's a bit of a white supremacist. So this white supremacist actor named Ronald Reagan, who's in it for big money, is running against Jimmy Carter, who we all know is a fucking bomb. Jimmy Carter is an awesome man. He's a great man. He is the exemplary American. He is the perfect example of what you want to call an American. He serves people all the time. He is not selfish. He is humble. Jimmy Carter is great, 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 great man. But so of course he's the enemy of Nazis, right? Nazis hate Jimmy Carter. Nazis hate Jimmy Carter. So the Nazis, the white supremacists, hatched a plan with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan's a Nazi, a white supremacist, and he hatched a plan. He's like, you know what? In order to take power and impose white supremacy rule, we need to get rid of this Jimmy Carter guy. So Ronald Reagan's team hatched a plan, and they went secretly through back channels, not as official people, but underneath to establish their own back channels to a foreign government. And so Reagan established back channels to a foreign government and conducted negotiations with this foreign government on behalf of the United States. And he said, look guys, don't listen to Jimmy Carter. Don't listen to Jimmy Carter. Don't listen to the United States. Instead, hold on to the hostages, and then, because Jimmy Carter failed to release the hostages, he will lose a re-election. And then Ronald Reagan will take power, and Ronald Reagan will give Iran a better deal. And Iran said, okay, fine. So Reagan sabotaged the United States so he could take power. So once Ronald Reagan took power in the United States, he wanted to further his control of power. So he wanted to spread his death squads all throughout the United States and throughout America. So in Nicaragua, there was a revolution, and a leftist revolution, and the Sandinistas took power. Well, Reagan didn't like that. He wanted to start a war. He wanted to start a terror war against the government of Nicaragua, but Congress wouldn't let him do it. So he's already buddy with Iran. So Reagan is already buddy with Iran. They already made a deal. So Reagan went to Iran and made another deal with Iran. And Reagan's like, "Hey guys, Congress says it's forbidden for me to sell you weapons. Congress forbade me to sell Iran weapons because Iran is engaged in a war with Iraq, who is technically the ally of the United States." But Reagan really wants his death squads in Nicaragua. He really wants his death squads. So Reagan says, "You know what? I've already fucked the United States. I've already fucked the United States once. What the fuck? I'll do it again. Fuck the United States." You know what? As Reagan said, "Hey Iran, I'm going to sell you these weapons illegally on the down low." Right? Congress forbade me to do it, but fuck Congress. Ronald Reagan's a Nazi. Ronald Reagan doesn't give a shit. Ronald Reagan's a white supremacist. Ronald Reagan is in service to the darkest forces of ever. So Ronald Reagan says, fuck the United States. Ronald Reagan wants to do something. He's going to do it. Ronald Reagan then illegally, on the secret, on the download, sold weapons to Iran to get money. Then, with that money, he took that money and he gave it to death squads in Nicaragua so they can overthrow the government in Nicaragua. So he can install a puppet government that's friendly to the United States. This actually happened, dudes. This actually happened. Then everyone found out that Ronald Reagan fucking sold a bunch of weapons to Iran, and then so they did a government search. But someone came in and buried the whole thing. Who was that guy that buried the whole thing? Billy Barr! Attorney General Billy Barr! He buried the whole thing, just like he would do with the Mueller report years later. Holy fuck. They're all connected, guys. They're all connected. So that was, but wait, this all happened because Ronald Reagan betrayed the United States, sabotaged the Carter administration so he could take power. And then, but before that one, right? It's not just one thing. Remember, the fascist assault on American democracy has been many decades in the making. Imagine what kind of world we would be in if Ronald Reagan did not sabotage the United States to stage a coup and take power. Because essentially that's what Ronald Reagan did. He staged a coup. He worked with a foreign power to overthrow the democracy in the United States to take power and give them back a better deal. That sounds a lot like what Donald Trump did in 2016. That sounds exactly like what Donald Trump did in 2016. History doesn't repeat, but it fucking rhymes. And you can hear the song, right? You can hear the song. So if you can hear the song, you know where the next rhyme is going to be. And if you know where the next rhyme is going to be, you can take it over. You can take you can steal that rhyme, you can steal the beat and then do your own rap. Because you know where the next rhyme is going to be. Like, haven't you ever seen people battle? Any people do rap battles? Like, you flow, but if someone can think faster than you, the other person, they'll hear where you're going, they'll hear the next rhyme, and then talk over you and insert their own rhyme, and then they control the flow. And they'll keep going until you can outthink their next rhyme. So we know, they keep doing the same play over and over and over again. All right, here, let's go back to Richard Nixon. White supremacist, famous white supremacist, Richard Nixon. You all know Richard Nixon, right? He tried to overthrow American democracy by using the Department of Justice to go after his enemies. Just like Donald Trump did. But but before we even get to that point, you have to remember the other part where Richard Nixon literally sent us to the climate apocalypse. This is the moment when you know I talk about how there's like a quantum flux, and like the probability field, anything's anything until it collapses, and then it's only one thing. Well, this is one of those moments when we could have had a utopia. We were superimposed with utopia world, and instead it collapsed into Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon led us to the climate apocalypse. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? The climate that Richard Nixon led us to the climate apocalypse. So remember, we were supposed to have left oil a long time ago when we discovered nuclear power. Everything about nuclear power is better than oil. It takes a smaller footprint. It has less waste. It's far more dense than oil. It's just everything about nuclear power is way better than oil. Everything about it is better than oil. Why didn't we ever go down the path to nuclear power? Why didn't we do it? Well, because the way nuclear power works is that once you get on a tech tree, you're stuck on that tech tree. It's real hard to abandon your tech tree and jump on another tech tree because you got to start from the beginning again. So a lot of companies don't want to abandon their tech. It's a sunk cost. They sunk all that money into their tech. Why abandon it and start on a new tech tree? They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. How do they get fucking started on the wrong tech tree? How did they get started on the wrong tech tree? Richard Nixon, that motherfucker. So why have these potentially revolutionary technologies based on thorium and molten salt pretty much been ignored for decades in favor of the liquid water system, which has proven itself to be extremely dangerous, extremely expensive, extremely demanding in terms of management and supervision, and which produces waste materials that remain deadly for more years than human civilization has existed? Simple. The decision was made years ago under Richard Nixon to commit to the water-based system. Once committed, an infrastructure was built, an economy developed, jobs were created. In other words, the nuclear power system became a self-sustaining machine, not just in the US, but worldwide. The result? Nuclear power has a horribly bad reputation. Hardly anyone even knows there are different approaches to splitting the atom, and only some of them risk meltdowns. No joke, dude. Remember how I told you all about molten salt nuclear reactors? Alvin Weinberg, the guy who invented light water reactors, he knew light water reactors were no good for power generation. The only reason why you want a light water reactor is to make plutonium for nuclear bombs. That's the only reason why you get up making a light water reactor. If you want to make energy for civilian use, you make a molten salt reactor. The kind of reactor that he fucking invented. He invented it. He's like, yeah, don't build that stupid thing I made. Build this thing that I made. This is the thing we want. However, Richard Nixon had a bunch of buddies, and his buddies had a different idea that would make him and his buddies really, really rich if they did it. So Richard Nixon literally fired the inventor of these reactors to go with his buddies to do this harebrained dumb idea, which failed, and now we're all fucking dependent on oil, and Russia's invading Ukraine, and we have the climate apocalypse. Why? Because Richard Nixon fired the guy who had invented the nuclear reactor that would have saved us. And now China's building it. White supremacists are literally destroying the world. So remember, white supremacists have been doing this project for many years to overthrow American democracy. Richard Nixon tried it. Ronald Reagan tried it. H.W. Bush didn't really try it, but he was ex-CIA president, so like he's like de facto like overthrew the government. and then George W. Bush overthrew the government. Remember how George W. Bush took power? Remember how there were counting votes in Florida, and in one district, it was really important that George W. Bush win that district, otherwise he loses the whole election. So Roger Stone knew this, and 24 or 23 years ago, organized a bunch of fucking white-collar dudes to show up at the office where they're counting the votes and stage a riot. He literally staged a riot to overthrow, to stop them from counting the votes, and then they would kick the vote. Then the decision would be kicked to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court voted 5-4 along partisan lines to award the presidency to the Republican. So the Republican majority awarded the vote to the Republican to be president. So that they overthrew our democracy again. After they overthrew our democracy again, look what happened. George W. Bush appointed Chief Justice John Roberts to the Supreme Court, where he is now. Like, what the fuck, dude? He didn't raise up a guy already sitting on the Supreme Court to be Chief Justice. He picked some other random young person that had been like groomed since birth to be the perfect fucking tool for white supremacists, and his name was John Roberts. They picked him. George W. Bush picked him and inserted him to be Chief Justice of the United States. John Roberts would then go on to overturn voting rights protections in the United States to allow Confederate states to enact voting suppression, and he allowed Citizens United to pass, which flooded the whole market with the whole political system with dark money that we have right now. Like, who knows how many other foreign governments are pouring money into our political system right now, because we can't tell, because John Roberts allowed all of it. John Roberts is like evil. He also would go on to outlaw abortion. So John Roberts is evil. Like, it's a system. White supremacists have been trying to overthrow the American democracy since the beginning. It's not just one time. It's not just this one thing. It's continuous. It's non-stop. And its latest iteration is the Republican Party. Yeah, Reagan sabotaged Carter. And the House and Senate separately authorized investigations, and both ultimately rejected the claims. So back in the 80s, the House and the Senate did an investigation. Did Ronald Reagan really sabotage the United States in order to take power? And the House and the Senate said, "Oh, nope, guess not. Oh well, it's over." So they were fucking wrong, dude. They were wrong. The bipartisan House task force, led by Democrat Representative Lee H. Hamilton of Indiana and controlled by Democrats 8-5, concluded in a consensus 968-page report that Mr. Casey was not in Madrid at the time, and that stories of covert dealings were not backed by credible testimony, documents, or intelligence reports. Still, a White House memo produced in November 1991 by a lawyer for President George H.W. Bush reported the existence of a cable from the Madrid embassy indicating that Bill Casey was in town for purposes unknown. That memo was not turned over to Mr. Hamilton's task force and was discovered 2 decades later by Robert Perry. So in other words, they fucking buried the whole thing. They buried the whole thing. Reagan sabotaged Carter. Mr. Barnes said he had no idea of the purpose of the Middle East trip when Mr. McConnell invited him. They traveled to the region on a Gulfstream jet owned by Superior Oil. Only when they sat down with the first Arab leader did Mr. Barnes learn what Mr. Connolly was up to, he said. Mr. Connolly said, look, Ronald Reagan's going to be elected president, and you need to get the word to Iran that they're going to make a better deal with Reagan than they are with Carter. Mr. Barnes recalled. He said, it would be very smart for you to pass the word to Iranians to wait until after this general election is over. And boy, I tell you, I'm sitting there and I heard it, and so now it dawns on me, I realize why we're there. Mr. Barnes said that, except for Israel, Mr. Connolly repeated the same message at every stop in the region to leaders such as President Anwar el-Sadat of Egypt. He thought his friend's motives was clear. It became very clear to me that Connolly was running for Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense. So this guy, Connolly, was at the behest of Ronald Reagan, was flying to all on a jet owned by Big Oil. He was flying to all these Middle Eastern dictators and telling them, don't negotiate with the Americans, with the American government, because the white supremacists will give you a better deal. And the dictators were like, okay, the white supremacists say they will give us a better deal. We should listen to we'll go with the white supremacists. So yeah, that's how the white supremacists did it. And that came out, what, yesterday? So yeah, people say, geez, PoGokeRo, you're always harping on white supremacists and stuff. Yeah, dudes, they're literally destroying the earth. They're literally trying to overthrow our government. They're literally enemies of the United States. Literally. Zero hyperbole. There's no exaggeration. Literally enemies of the United States. Literally enemies of life on Earth. Because remember, they stopped our plan to our technology that would have taken us off of oil. They stopped it because they would have made more. They make more money this way. They're literally enemies of life. I mean, yeah, their whole energy system, oil, is literally based on death. Literally based on death. They're literally burning the dead bodies of dinosaurs and plants to get energy. It's literally based on death. How much more clear can I make it? I don't know what else to do. So white supremacists have their dog whistles. Their dog whistles. It's like coded language. It's a way of communicating to other races that you're around and that you're on the same team against the multiracial democracy people. Racists are enemies, are the literal enemies of multiracial Americans, of democracy. So, and you can see how, like, again, they're not fucking smart. They do the same things over and over and over again. So if you can see the rhyme, the pattern, you can disrupt it. So remember how it was before. Great. With all these women in the workplace, we need to make sexual harassment training and be all PC. After, anyone else think this company is getting a little too woke? It's the same thing, right? They're saying the same thing. It's a dog whistle. It's a dog whistle for bigots to communicate with each other. Before, why are there so many black people in this movie? Now, geez, why is Hollywood so woke these days? It's so funny, right? It's that dog whistle, right? Here's the next one. Before, I don't want no queers around my kids. You feel me? After, look, I just don't want any of that woke agenda in my kids' education. Anti-woke covering for shitty bigots since 2020. It's the way they use language. Here's another example. So In the 1960s, the way you would call someone the N-word is you say states' rights. Then they changed it, and it was called the Southern strategy, you know, to use racism. Then they changed it because you couldn't be so blatant. They changed it to welfare queens under Reagan. And now Ron DeSantis, woke is, they're all saying the same thing, the N-word. They're all saying the N-word. They're all saying the N-word. So what is the Southern strategy? What is the Southern strategy that Richard Nixon employed? Because, you know, that was Richard Nixon in the 1970s who used the Southern strategy. What is that Southern strategy that Richard Nixon used? In American politics, the Southern strategy was a Republican Party electoral strategy to increase political support among white voters in the South by appealing to racism against African Americans. As the civil rights movement and dismantling of Jim Crow laws in the 1950s and 60s visibly deepened existing racial tensions in much of the southern United States, Republican politicians such as presidential candidate Richard Nixon and Senator Barry Goldwater developed strategies that successfully contributed to the political realignment of many white conservative voters in the South who had traditionally supported the Democratic Party. It also helped push the Republican Party much more to the right relative to the 1950s. The phrase Southern strategy refers primarily to top-down narratives of the political realignment of the South, which suggests that Republican leaders consciously appealed to many white Southerners' racial grievances to gain their support. This top-down narrative of the Southern strategy is generally believed to be the primary force that transformed Southern politics following the Civil Rights era. The scholarly consensus is that racial conservatism was critical in the post-Civil Rights realignment of the Republican Party and Democratic parties. Through several aspects of this view have been debated by historians and political scientists. The perception that the Republican Party had served as the vehicle of white supremacy in the South, particularly during the Goldwater campaign and the presidential elections of 1968 and 1972, made it difficult for the Republican Party to win back the support of black voters in the South in later years. In 2005, Republican National Committee Chairman Keith Mellman formally apologized to the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People for exploiting racial polarization to win elections and for ignoring the black vote. Isn't that funny? In 2005, the Republicans apologized to the NAACP, and in 2023, they're literally trying to erase the fact that they even existed. They're fucking white supremacists, dude. I'm telling you, they're literally trying to destroy life on Earth. So yeah, Republicans use the Southern strategy to use racism to gain power. That's what the Republican Party is. It's the party of racists and nihilists, racists and nihilists, and Confederates and Nazis. That's a Republican. All right, so what is this? All right, here's an example. This woman, Bethany Mandel, wrote an entire book on how wokeism is destroying the United States. She wrote an entire book on why wokeism is destroying the United States. So she is asked on TV one very, very, very simple question. Oh, so you wrote this whole book on why wokeism is destroying the United States. Can you tell us, what does it mean to be woke? Define the word woke. And she couldn't do it. She wrote a whole book and she couldn't do it. She could not define the word woke.
Americans consider themselves very liberal.
Oh no.
Fewer of them consider themselves to be woke. And so, you know, when we
what
talk
does that
about
mean to
traditional
you? Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
What is
So,
woke?
I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it.
Is it hard?
It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression.
So she just said woke is the idea that we want to recreate society, redo society to create hierarchies of oppression. To create. She doesn't think that. So implicit in her statement is that hierarchies of oppression currently do not exist, according to her. Currently, according to her, hierarchies of oppression do not exist. However, according to her, woke people want to get rid of this utopia of no oppression of hierarchical oppression. They want to get rid of this no hierarchical oppression and replace it with a system of hierarchy of oppression. They want to replace no oppression and with oppression. That's what she's saying. She's saying basically that white supremacy doesn't exist. Why is this woman on TV? She's obviously an idiot. Obviously. She just said white supremacy doesn't exist. Like, how stupid does she have to be? She wrote an entire book on how dumb she is. And you put her on TV? Oh my God. Put me on TV, guys. Come on. Don't put her on TV. Look how dumb she is. She just told you white supremacy doesn't exist. Ah, she's dumb.
Sorry, it's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Yeah,
no, it's not. What's hard for you is to explain it to someone who's not on your team. What's hard for you is to explain it to someone who doesn't accept your assumptions. So since you have to say it in a way that isn't automatically loaded with all your racist assumptions, you can't actually define it. In fact, you wait until after you're on Twitter to define it. Where'd it go? She redefines it, right? She redefines it. At first she said wokeism was to do away with the current utopia of no hierarchical system of oppression and replace it with a hierarchical system of oppression. She says that currently we have no oppression, but that woke people want to replace our no oppression with oppression. That's what she said at first. Then on to the face of Brianna Joy Gray, because she's black, so she can't say what she really believes to a black person. But on Twitter, once she's in a safe space on Twitter, then she can redefine it again. So what does she redefine it as? She says it's a radical belief system suggesting our institutions are built around discrimination, but they are, right? That's a fact. So is it radical? Is it radical to believe in reality? Is it radical? If I say 2 + 2 = 4, is that radical? Is it radical to think that it's radical? Why would you think it's radical to think that 2 + 2 = 4? Who's the radical one? So she says that wokeism is a radical belief system that our institutions are built around discrimination, because they are. It's radical to think that they aren't. Claiming that all disparity is a result of that discrimination. Yes, dude. Humans are not pretty much the same, right? All humans are pretty much the same, more or less. We're all pretty much the same. The fact that one group does way, way better than another group isn't because that one group is way, way intrinsically way, way, way better than the other group. It's not to say that the other group is intrinsically bad. No, dude. It's because our fucking system has created these outcomes. The very system itself is racially motivated and creates outcomes that reflect this racial motivation. But you have this radical idea that this doesn't exist. Bethany Mandel has this crazy fucking idea that it doesn't exist. She doesn't believe it's here. So she wrote a book about her delusions, and then they put her on TV so she can explain that she's dumb. Man, and she makes a ton of money doing this. I don't understand. So she's a white supremacist. She can't define it. Every time she defines it, it's wrong. Every time. Oh, but wait a minute. I need to pull this up real quick so I can finish the point about her. I didn't do it, but oh, come on, dude. Oh, it's not. There it is. No, it's not letting me see my profile. Oh, dude, Twitter's breaking. Shit. Twitter's breaking, so I can't see it. Here, I can maybe do a search. Yeah, Bethany Mandel's getting destroyed on Twitter. Because, dude, why can't I come up? There it is, okay. See, so Bethany Mandel says it's hard for her to define woke. She defines, but that's not how she uses the term. So she defines woke as the belief system that she defines woke as wanting to replace our current system of non-oppression with the system of oppression. That's what she defines woke as. But the way she uses it, she doesn't use it the way she defines it. She says, "Go woke, go broke." What does that have to do with it? Victoria's Secret is finally saying goodbye to the Angels. They'll be replaced with a new group of women icons, including the soccer star Megan Rapinoe, in what the brand is calling the VS Collective. It's the start of a major overhaul. How is Victoria's Secret changing their models? A system of oppression. I don't think it doesn't her definition of woke doesn't make sense when she uses the word woke here in this context. Instead, remember what I said, woke is code word for the N-word by white supremacists. So if we cross this out and say N-word, go N-word, go broke. Oh, I see. Because Victoria's Secret is changing their models to be more inclusive of the many different body types of women. Bethany Mandel is calling them the N-word. Bethany Mandel is calling them the N-word. That makes a lot more sense. If you Bethany Mandel's definition of woke doesn't make sense. But when I replace woke with the N-word, all of a sudden now I can understand. I can understand what Bethany Mandel, the definition of woke that Bethany Mandel means by the context. So if I replace woke with N-word, I see what she's saying now. Okay, Bethany Mandel, I understand what we're saying. You're a bigot. You're a racist. Okay, racist. Fuck off. Fucking piece of shit. That's how they do it, right? Racists are cowards. They can never, ever, ever say what they really believe. They can never do it. They will never do it. They can never stand on their beliefs unless they know that you're a believer too, and then they'll do it, but in their safe space. She couldn't define it in front of Brianna Gray because she's not going to tell Brianna Gray she's an N-word to her face, because that's what they mean by the word woke. When white supremacists use the word woke, they mean the N-word. Every time. So remember how I told you that Rupert Murdoch, owner of Fox News, was buddy with Vladimir Putin? Well, so Rupert Murdoch is the boss of this guy.
Siding with Putin. Who's siding with Putin? I haven't seen anybody do that.
The West started the war, and we used force in order to stop it.
If there is any single American who deserves scorn and, yes, blame for the invasion of Ukraine, it would be Joe Biden.
The Ukraine.
That's weird. That's weird. Isn't that weird? That's weird. Rupert Murdoch owns Fox News. Rupert Murdoch is friends with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is invading Ukraine. Rupert Murdoch is the boss of Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is saying Vladimir Putin is great and that the enemy of Vladimir Putin is bad.
Ukrainian people have become hostages of their Western masters.
Ukraine is not a democracy. It's a client state of the Biden administration.
Why is Tucker Carlson repeating the lies of Vladimir Putin? Tucker Carlson, the employee of Rupert Murdoch? Rupert Murdoch, good friend of Vladimir Putin?
The U.S. were training on the future theater of military actions by owning biological laboratories in Ukraine.
Military biological programs are under development in Ukraine, financed by the U.S. Defense Ministry.
He's literally repeating word for word what Putin is saying. Tucker Carlson's literally repeating word for word what Putin's saying. Word for word, word for word. Okay, not literally because he's speaking English and Putin speaks Russian, but the content is exactly the same. Exactly the same content. Exactly the same. Tucker Carlson is amplifying the propaganda of Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin and the boss of Tucker Carlson, Rupert Murdoch, are good friends.
Western countries were setting military bases on our border.
The Russians don't want American missiles on their border. They don't want.
See what I mean? Dude, Eddie, if you listen to Tucker Carlson and watch Fox News, you're literally listening to Russian propaganda, and you're an enemy of the United States. You're literally an enemy of the United States if you listen to this guy, Tucker Carlson, because he's working for Putin. He's literally working for Putin and not for the Americans. I mean, how much more blatant can you
NATO
get?
took specific actions, expansions to our borders.
Getting Ukraine to join NATO was the key to inciting war with Russia.
The elite.
See, he's just repeating it. Tucker Carlson, this is called information laundering. It's Russian propaganda, but because Tucker Carlson says it on an American station, you don't realize it's Russian propaganda. It's laundered to look like an American saying it, because Tucker Carlson's a propagandist for Putin, for fascists, for white supremacists.
States of the West are not hiding their goals. They are trying to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia.
The Biden administration wanted all along a regime change war against Russia.
See, you have to remember, Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine. All these accusations from Putin and Tucker Carlson that Biden started it are all bullshit. It's all bullshit because does Biden command the Russian military to invade Ukraine? No, but Tucker Carlson's repeating word for word the propaganda of Vladimir Putin. Because his boss told him to. His boss, Rupert Murdoch, is good friends with Vladimir Putin.
Initiators of the sanctions are punishing themselves.
So it's not Vladimir Putin who's getting punished, it's American citizens.
You see what I mean? He's literally repeating every fucking word of Vladimir Putin. Tucker Carlson, Vladimir Putin, same fucking thing.
you.
The West provoked the growth of prices in their own countries, collapse of energy sector.
Gas prices are already the highest they have ever been in history. So will the price of natural gas and the price of electricity and food and everything else you buy. I think we...
So, Vladimir Putin, Tucker Carlson, same thing. Same thing. Same thing.
We should probably take the side of Russia if we have to choose between Russia and Ukraine. That is my view. We're on Putin's side.
Tucker Carlson, Vladimir Putin, same thing. Don't forget it. Don't forget it. So, I have been calling for Donald Trump to be executed by the United States. But, you know, I'm just repeating what Donald Trump himself said. So Donald Trump put out an entire advertisement in the newspaper, in the New York Times, calling for the death penalty. Donald Trump did. Donald Trump did it. Donald Trump, bring back the death penalty. So, if the United States were to convict Donald Trump of seditious conspiracy, it's fully within its rights to apply the death penalty to Donald Trump. Donald Trump himself agrees that Donald Trump should suffer the death penalty if Donald Trump is found guilty of treason. It's not a controversy, right? There's no controversy there. Of course Donald Trump should suffer the death penalty. It's the law in the United States. Donald Trump himself agrees that the death penalty should be applied to Donald Trump. He agrees. He agrees. It's not going to stop fascism. It's not going to, like, bring back the people Donald Trump killed through his COVID mismanagement. It's not going to restore our rights. But it will be a small consolation for those people who have been executed by the United States for unjust reasons. The United States should demonstrate to itself and to the world that its laws apply to everyone, rich and poor, weak and powerful. And by executing Donald Trump, just as Donald Trump executed others, just as he called for others to do, if the United States can execute Donald Trump, it will demonstrate that it is a country that's ruled by laws and not by men. All right, so some awesomeness, some freaking awesomeness. Check this out. Lawmaker pauses filibuster on agreement to debate trans bill. A lawmaker who has been holding up the work of the Nebraska legislature for weeks to protest a bill that would ban gender-affirming therapies for minors has paused her persistent filibuster in a deal that will see lawmakers debate the bill next week. Senator Michaela Kavanaugh of Omaha has been staging a filibuster of every single bill before this legislative body, even ones she's supported, since late February to protest the bill. Introduced by a freshman lawmaker and supported by hard-right conservatives, the bill would outlaw gender-affirming therapies such as hormone treatments and gender-affirming surgeries for those 18 and younger. Oh, whatever. Well, no, dude. No, fuck you. Are you a doctor? Legislators? It's not up to you guys. Why don't you fuck off? I'm all about it. Like, Senator Michaela Kavanaugh is awesome. She's great. She is showing you how to use a filibuster. Kavanaugh launched her effort when the bill advanced out of committee, introducing amendment after amendment and spending as much time as Nebraska rules allow on the microphone to hold bills hostage on the legislative floor. She said she would continue to do so through the end of the 90-day session. I will burn the session to the ground over this bill, Kavanaugh said at the time. By the halfway point of the session Wednesday, not a single bill had passed, and only a handful had advanced from the first of 3 rounds of debate, thanks to Kavanaugh's relentless filibustering. Good. 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 It's not up to the state to decide how doctors and kids take care of themselves. It's not up to the state. You have no valid medicinal reason to outlaw these therapies. You have none. The only reason you have is hate. You have hate. Oh, we hate you, so we'll pass this law. Our reason is hate. Hey, we hate you. We'll pass this law. But yo, Michaela Kavanaugh, Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, takes up the shield of Captain America and protects Americans. Hell yeah. Rock on, Senator Kavanaugh. You're awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. I agree with you. We have to protect trans kids from the hatred of white supremacists. Because the hatred of white supremacists know no bounds. The hatred of white supremacists will creep into every aspect of your being if you allow it. White supremacists are a scourge upon life itself. All right. Here, I got this one here. Here's an example of the white supremacists being a scourge upon life itself. So we already know, right? I already told you how Oklahoma is a concentration camp for Native Americans. That's what it was made for. I already told you this. I already told you that the fascists of Israel want to do the same thing to the Palestinians that the Americans have done to the Native Americans in Oklahoma. What did they do to the Native Americans in Oklahoma? Well, Native Americans lived where they lived on their land, but then the American government came, rounded them all off, evicted them from their land, marched them thousands of miles to the middle of butt-fuck nowhere, and said, you guys live here now. But the problem is the state in which they live, they don't control the majority. They don't control the state. So they can't even pass their own laws. They were marched off their land and put onto a concentration camp administered by white supremacists. How do I know that Oklahoma is administered by white supremacists? Because white supremacists hate Native Americans and they hate women. And that coalesces into this example. 20-year-old Native American woman, Brittany Poolaw, was convicted by an Oklahoma jury of manslaughter for the death of her 17-week-old non-viable fetus. She faces 4 years in prison for a miscarriage she suffered less than halfway through her pregnancy. So the white supremacists of Oklahoma are literally like imprisoning the Native Americans who were already evicted off their lands and placed on concentration camps. They don't even have control of their own bodies. That is deep oppression. That is some oppression. That is how deep hatred can go. It will take away your right to your own body. So people ask me, geez, PoGokeRo, why are you always so fucking political? Why do you always got to bring up white supremacy? Because it's literally the enemy of life itself. Like, historically, I can fucking watch this long-ass trail of it. And I try to explain it to people, and they're like, oh, I can't handle it. Bye-bye, I'm going away. So I'm sitting there holding this knowledge of the evil of white supremacy. And like, yeah, what do? I put it out here. That's all I can do. But I also know the beauty of humans and of creation. Like, I know the awesome, great things that we can do together. I know it. I know it. That's why I continue to struggle to protect it. To protect our future. And to protect our humanity and our beauty. Because it's awesome and we deserve it. We shouldn't let these fucking white supremacists come and wreck our party. Fuck them in the neck. Fuck them. And that's why Senator Michaela Kavanaugh is so awesome. she takes up the shield of Captain America to defend those people who are weaker than herself. And she's awesome. And we should look up to her as an example of good government and the power of democracy. So yes, Donald Trump floated a balloon that he was going to get indicted on Tuesday, but he's full of shit. He doesn't know anything. What he did was he wanted to see the reaction of what would happen if he put it out there. And it looks like people are really, really happy. And then a lot of Nazis came out and said that they would commit violence if Donald Trump were arrested. So we know where the Nazis are, and we know that the Nazis are against the United States. So in a way, it kind of helped us out that the Nazis like tipped their hand to everyone when they said that they would commit violence to protect Donald Trump. But I think he's full of shit. I don't know when they will indict him, or if they will indict him. I just know I'm gonna have a big party when it happens. All right. Until next time, America. Peace. PoGokeRo out.